All right, welcome to another episode of the Vets and Real Estate Podcast. I'm joined this week by former Army MP turned mortgage officer or loan officer. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you, Will. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so obviously going from law enforcement into real estate, a little bit of a transition. We've heard the story a little bit, but you went into the lending side of things. How have you enjoyed lending so far?
You know, I got into it because I saw a need for service members and veterans that are using these bigger companies that we've been groomed to use while we're in the service for the last 20 years and not really getting that customer service or that full 100% customer satisfaction in that right pricing and all that stuff. So when I got into this field about 3 years ago, I wanted to create a platform where I could get our service members, teach them financial literacy, teach them how to use their VA home loan, teach them how to purchase more than one house. And when they, PCS, rent that house out and buy another house and start building generational wealth and start building an additional, stream of income on the government's dime. Right. That's why I started this. And throughout the last 3 years, I've built a great team of military veteran loan officers. And, our goal is to help one service member at a time with the biggest purchase of their life and be totally honest, totally upfront, and just make sure they get into that house and then offer them other resources once they get into that home. Teach them about the insurances, the life insurances, all the other different things that they can do to create a better life for themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's definitely a great mission that you can see and absolutely needed. But how did you get there? You were, in the Army as an MP. Was that the goal? A couple of years in, you realized that was what it was, or what did that transition look like for you as you decided, to finish your time in service?
When I got out of the military, I was like an entrepreneur. I did some things. I got some products into the military. And then I used to run call centers, and then I was just traveling a lot in my life. And I wanted to, about 4 years ago, I said, my kids, were in high school, they play sports. And I wasn't home. I was Marriott Admiral. I was Delta Diamond. That just means I'm gone 200 something nights a year. And I was like, let's do something. So I started a credit repair company to help veterans with the credit repair. I was giving a friend those leads, and he was like, listen, there's an issue with the VA home loan. These bigger companies are taking advantage of vets. Let me show you. Let me show you how we can help. If you have this platform full of military and you're helping these veterans with their credit repair, because after 4 months, I was up to I think around 420 veterans a month that I was helping in 4 months. And I was like, look at this. Look at how we can help in the mortgage space. Look at how we can help more people with the biggest purchase of their life. Because when I was doing a credit repair, I'd always ask, what's your goal? I want to use my VA home loan. Perfect. So I'd give the lead over to my buddy. He would do it. And then eventually him and I created a branch. And then I went out on my own about a year later after that. And now I'm with Loan Depot, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a blessing.
Awesome. So did you, obviously you didn't jump right into real estate from day one after leaving the Army. You had a little bit of a detour is what it sounds like. Was there anything kind of inkling when you started about leaving the Army that, going the loan route or going that route even was something of interest to you, or was real estate not even on your radar?
Well, it's funny. When I was in the service, my wife was a realtor, and she just happened. When I was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and she happened to apply for a job to be like the front office girl. And the lady that owned I think it was a Remax. The lady that owned the agency said, "Hey, you're pretty, you're smart, you can sell. You're going to become a real estate agent." So she paid for her license. She became a real estate agent. Turned out she became like our unit's real estate agent. So everybody coming in and going out, I was probably a E4 at the time. She was making 5 times as much money as I was making. I was like, this is crazy. So obviously real estate was always in our head. She got her brokerage. We moved back to Florida when I got out of service. My goal while I was in the service, I was a lifer. I was fast tracking. I made E6 in 4 years. So Like I was always going until my last deployment. I got hurt. We deployed, we got orders to Germany. I was there for a year. I got med boarded and got out. And then I just had to, with a wife and two kids at the time, I just had to get into something right away that could provide for my family. And then as I got established and as I started doing the entrepreneur thing, started doing okay for myself, this was like a passion project, right? Helping veterans with the VA and competing against the big companies, showing where the big companies are doing wrong and how we can help and start exploiting that. So that's been my passion ever since. And the fun part for me is hiring military veteran loan officers all across the country to come be part of my team. So now we have the camaraderie, we have the mission, we have the same goals like we did when we were in the military. And that's, that whole team is fun. And we had fun doing it and we have fun doing it, especially spreading the word about who we are and why we
And
do it.
that's interesting. Did you not have that camaraderie and that I don't know the that feeling we typically get from the military, just that esprit de corps, all that? Did you not have that prior to starting your own company when you first got out? Was that different?
Yeah, but when I started my own company, it wasn't all veterans, right? It was just civilians and people that wanted to like help get my products in there, sales guys, manufacturers, stuff like that. Here, I'm in a platform where I only hire military veterans. So, I know what everybody's gone through, especially through deployments, the spouses, all that stuff. So it's just, it puts me back 2 steps, but it puts me ahead 3 steps because I know what type of person I'm hiring. I know I'm going to get somebody with hustle. I'm going to get somebody with drive, and they're opening to learning how to go and generate that business, how to create those relationships with realtors in your neighborhood, how to go back to your old units that you used to serve in that are still local to you and say, hey guys, let me help you with financial literacy for your lower enlisted. Let me help you with how you can take this money that the government is offering you, but you decide to live on base with your wife. Why don't you live off base, take your BAH and buy a house and then keep that house forever or until you want to sell it for a profit? That's the fun stuff. That's the mission, what
I
we're all
can
about.
at least tell from my journey. I wish there was more of that. And honestly, the reason why I got into real estate was we had our command financial specialist who generally is teaching somebody not to go buy a 33% interest rate Camaro and how to balance a checkbook, right? That's generally what their job typically is. Did a kind of real estate investment seminar and that's what got me, oh wow, I can make. He was a smart guy, but he wasn't anybody special. He was a normal dude, and he was talking about how he was making, more money with 20 plus years as an E6 of the Army, where here I was a PFC and E3, barely making my $1,300 a month or whatever the pay was, thinking, wow, if this guy can do it, like I could probably do it as well. And I would agree, there's not enough of that training in there. And have you guys found that has had in your business really had that positive ROI is going through there, focusing on that financial literacy and just growing service members' success even before they're ready to buy a home?
Yeah, it's not about the ROI. It's about getting the word out there and really teaching. Our passion is helping service members, teaching these lower enlisted, hey, best thing you can ever do is go on a deployment and save your money. Come back with $40,000, $50,000 in the bank and then do the right thing with it, right? Play a little bit on Robinhood, buy some stocks, invest in some things, get a house, purchase a house. You and your roommate could get up to a quadplex using your VA loan, splitting it. Take two of those, take two of those units, rent out the other two, or even one person could buy up to a quadplex. Like that's what we try to educate. Is it an immediate return on our investment? Absolutely not. But it's the long run game, right? It's the guy that gets married that is wants to now live off base, or he gets married because he wants to live off base really quick. We know those guys too. They find their international sweetheart at the bar by post, and then now they want to, get married next week and buy an apartment or get a house or whatever. So we educate that. Does it happen overnight? No. Is there a lot of guys that tend to PCS or PCS in within 2 or 3 months, and they say, "Hey, I want to sell my house, but I also want to buy a house at my next location." What do we do? So yes, Eventually there's an ROI. It's a numbers game. You touch 1,000 people, it equals X, whatever. But it's not, that's not our, that's not, is it about the money? Not really, honestly. Like I've done well in life. Like our guy, like it's about just our passion and our mission is helping service members and veterans with the biggest purchase of their life. And it starts with the fundamentals of education. It starts with those lower enlisted, educating them on financial literacy, educating them on credit scores. We all know the 1st and the 15th of every month, we're getting paid no matter what. You see those guys walking into Walmart on the 14th and GameStop blowing their load because they know they're reloaded on the 15th. Simple as that, or just doing whatever they want, going downtown and just spending their money. Like that's cool, but that's not cool to a point, right? Now you're doing a big boy jobs. We got to save big boy money so we can do big boy things down the road. And obviously, home ownership is something that's very, very important, to create a foundation.
You mentioned that you hired nothing but veterans or mostly veterans at that point. As you're hiring those veterans, have you noticed anything that we just generally stink at when it comes to the interview process as we transition out, especially being fresh out of the military? Have you noticed anything or had any tips for somebody who's getting ready to kind of transition and how to not come across as a poor interviewer?
What I've come across is if within the first 3 questions they ask, "What's my salary? How much am I getting paid?" Then they don't really understand what this is about, right? This is a eat what you kill job. I'll give you all the weaponry and ammunition to kill an elephant. I'll train you. I'll teach you. I'll give you marketing. Loan Depot does a very, very good job taking our veterans that work on my team and helping us get to the next level. But if that's one of their first questions, I say, I'm sorry, this isn't for you. This is something where you need to put your mindset. You're starting off at a low rank and you're going to build yourself up. But when you get yourself to that E4, E5 position in 6 months to 9 months, you should be closing $1 million a month. You should be making $15,000 a month. Like the money is there. People need homes. Service members, PCS. Right now, as we're coming up to the busiest times because it's PCS time. March, April, May, people are PCSing because they're moving during the summer because their kids are in school. Now's the time where we really do our mission and help our service members and veterans. But go back to your question. I think it's the mindset's there, but the hustle isn't there. This isn't you're automatically going to get paid. This is me saying, hey, you have everything you want in front of you. You could do it. You have to work 24/7 to get to it. This isn't a 9 to 5 job. This is you get what you get out of it type of job. And I don't hold on to dead weight. I just don't. I can't deal with it. Like after 60 days, if you're not producing, if you're not doing what we say we're doing, if you're not calling your 100 friends, there's an issue. And it's a numbers game, right? Every 5 you get one or two really good guys.
So what does that transition look like when they're coming in, they get hired, and what does that first 30, 60 days look like? I mean, they're obviously doing training, they're getting licensed, they're doing all that, but what does actually building a business in lending actually start to look like?
So great question. 2 things. I hire guys from friends of friends or guys that used to serve with me or something like that wants to get into the business. And I've also just got involved with this company that does a skill bridge. So they do a mortgage skill bridge. So if you're 2-3 months out before exiting the military, you can enter their program. First 30 days is how to sell, right? Sales. And then the remaining 90 days is how to build your book of business, how to reach out to realtors, learn everything about the mortgage industry, get licensed. So when you come out, you're a complete package. And they're turned over to me already doing business because within the first 60 days, they already get a loan in because they teach them, hey, call 100 of your friends. Ask them who your realtor was when they sold or bought their house. Call that realtor and say, hey, Mr. Jones, my best friend just gave me your number and said you're great. I just want to let you know I'm a veteran and I'm getting into the mortgage business. Please let me know how I can service you any way possible. So that's the skill bridge side of things. They teach them the sales and all that. I get guys that come in. I teach them the same thing. I teach them how to build relationships in our local veteran market. Get involved with the VFW. Get involved with the American Legion. Like doing this job, you can't be in your shell anymore. You have to open up. You have to be that subject matter expert now on the VA home loan or any loan. We just don't do like 95% of our business is VA loans, but we do everything, right? Because we get a lot of referrals from veterans that we helped, like aunts and grandmas, or I want to refinance, or I want to do this. Yeah, we could do that, no problem. So it's for me, it's not a hard job to be a loan officer. It's not a hard job to be a real estate agent. It's a hard job to get yourself out there and expose yourself and be likable and build your client base. This is a sales 101 job. We have the systems to teach you how to do the mortgages, to teach you how to do everything. Everything's in the computer. It's easy. Just like being a real estate agent. Open a door, talk about a house, build your relationship, have them trust you. You're going to find them a house. You're going to sell them or buy them a
So
house eventually.
the first few months of kind of just building and going through, and that skill bridge is an awesome opportunity. What does it start looking like as you advance now in the career? You're now into your first year, you're closing some decent business. Is there additional training, certifications, those kind of things that you would go through and start looking at? And is that worthwhile, or are they kind of like in the agent world where there's 1,000 letter designations, you can go out there, maybe only a handful of them are really worth anything? Is that the same thing that you may run into in the lending side?
Well, we continue their training when they come out of SkillBridge. They still get an additional 6 months of sales training through this lady. Her name's Angie. She is amazing. I think she has over 100 loan officers and real estate agents that make over $1 million a year doing what she does. She's top notch. She did this SkillBridge. So our guys coming through SkillBridge will have that for 6 months. I introduced the guys to VRED, VA, Veterans Association of Real Estate Business. I'm not really a fan of them, to be honest with you, but there is a lot of connection with real estate agents in those markets, right? Um, and we continue to train. Every week I have weekly calls with all the guys at one time, and we talk about things that we're doing. We get involved with the Veteran Golf Association. Loan Depot should be starting up a partnership with them. There's 35,000 veterans that play over 1,300 golf tournaments every single year, where you're connected to these veterans. And I live in South Florida. I am a huge golfer. I love golf. So Josh, who started this foundation, I was like, wow, it's not a foundation. I think he makes money. But, he's been doing it for a while now, and great guy, and his passion is all about golf. So it's taking our veterans and using our veteran communities and connections to get our guys involved. How can Loan Depot help you? Do you have an emergency? Do you have a cause? Do you have something? Right? Like, let's give back to our communities, but also let these guys know, hey, I'm your local vendor. I'm here for you. Building that real estate agent model. Every real estate agent has a lender, right? Everybody has a lender that does co-branding with them, or takes them to nicer dinners, or does everybody. That's the game when it comes to lending. I go for real estate agents that want their clients to be taken care of, and we do a very good job. And I was driving home from Orlando 2 weeks ago. She's like, hey, I need a pre-approval over by 5 o'clock. I'm not going to be home by 7. I got to pull over to the side of the road and get it sent out to them, or call somebody to get it done for her. You know, that's just the way it is. Like, we just have to go above and beyond, and hopefully that realtor stays with us. But at the same time, we generate a lot of leads, right? I get a lot of leads in every week that my loan officers get, where these clients, we educate them, get pre-approved first. Let's find a loan amount you could comfortably afford. And now we go to your market and we start shopping. Because you can find a house all day. If you find a realtor that wants to show you a house without being pre-approved, I don't know how good that realtor is, because they're just wasting their time and their gas, right? So let's get you pre-approved, and then let me go to my veteran real estate market, let's say Fort Bragg or wherever, and say, hey, call Chloe. Hey, Chloe, guess what? I have a pre-qualified buyer, 400, looking for the Bragg area. He wants to rent it out when he leaves. So let's make sure it's in a decent area so he could have good, rental return down the road. Um, and then, a lot of times I'm thinking, hey, I'm her lender. I never hear from her again. right? I just gave her a $500,000 deal. Yeah, I'll let you know when I get the next. And I see it on social media. Oh, I got sold this house, sold that house. So, I mean, that's the game, right? You just got to build strong, solid relationships, and that's why I try to teach these guys. You know, we all, just like you, we all know veterans that go in to become real estate agents, right? So, how easy is it to call your old buddy that you started with, be like, hey, I'm in the London, I'm on the Patriot team at Loan Depot. Well, just give me a shot, dude. Let me show you what I can do. You know, hey, I'm in town. Let's go to dinner or something. Like that's what we do.
Up about you sent a $400,000 $500,000 home to somebody, and then you never hear from them again. And I think sometimes that's the frustration from the real estate agents back to the lenders, but I think it's the lenders back to the real estate agent as well, is that sometimes these are just one sided or they're not necessarily reciprocal. And I think, especially as a new agent or even a new, loan officer, it really is a relationship game. And often we think it's the relationship between me and the client, but there's so much more between you and the other vendors, because you only may work with that client once every 4, 5, 7 years. You may do 16 deals with that vendor throughout the year, and you want them to make sure you want to make sure that the relationship is intact. And there's some things where I'll make a deal simply because I want to keep the relationship with a vendor because they've been a great vendor for so long. And I think so often we forget that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's definitely something that comes through. At what point do you kind of cut an agent off? I guess at that point, if you're sending them deals and they're not sending anything back, I mean, do you have a hard rule? Hey, 3 and they're out, or is it just kind of matter per the circumstance?
I go based off our relationship, our communication, right? Hey, I got a lead for you. Here you go. If they've done a good job for the veteran, for our client, awesome. I'm so happy. And I asked my client, hey, how do you like him or her? Oh, they're great. They're doing this. They're doing that. Um, but you know what? After a couple of times, after the second one, okay, I'll send like, hey, I gave you, I'm up 2 points. You're up 0. Like, is this all you're making money on? Right? My deals that I'm giving you, which I don't believe, because you see social media listings, this and that, right? Everybody's braggadocious on social media and how big they are. So then I just find another one. Or, I've been dealing a lot with a company called Veteran PCS. They give me a lot of leads. They give back, a piece of referral back to the military buyer. Same thing. I probably given them more leads than they given me, right? But I know they're giving money back to the veterans. So those guys that are kind of in a jam, like, hey, go use them, go use their real estate agent. You'll get $500, $1,500 move-in bonus. To help you out on closing costs or whatever. So, every situation is different. Um, I've tried networking with the big military real estate groups, right? Or, there's 2 or 3 of them out there that have, like VREP. Funny story. I went to VREP. They had their national conference in Orlando, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And I just got involved in hearing about who they are and what they were. I'm like, this is perfect. All veteran real estate agents under one roof. I'm a lender. I'm going to kill this. Get to the conference. They have the taps come in, the anthem's going, everybody's standing up. You're like, yeah, America. And then the guy that owns it, one of the partners, he's not even a veteran. And he goes, hey, can I have all active duty service members or veterans please stand? I'm like, please stand. And we're already standing. I'm like, please stand. This should be the whole place. 80% of the place sat down. And out of 500 people, there was probably 80 veterans standing. And I don't know anybody in this place at all. I look over the table, 12 people. I go, you guys aren't veterans? No, we're patriots. And I was like, what the hell is this? Patriots? Like, what does that mean? And now I'm like, okay, you're using the veteran name and veteran image to do veteran loans or sell to veterans. I get it, but that's not the purpose. Like, my purpose is truly to be about the veteran. My purpose is to have an all veteran team. My purpose is to align with a company like Loan Depot, who has a huge veteran platform and is only building it bigger and bigger. They reached out to me to come over to them because they saw what I've been doing. And like I said, it's been a blessing ever since, right? Their pricing is phenomenal. Their marketing is great. Every tool my guys need, they have. and it's very fair. It's a good place to be. But that's what, to go back to the question, that's what I do. I try to, teach them how to network themselves in the right places. But you can only teach them so, right? You lead the horse to
Sure.
water, you can't make them drink. Somebody, you see a lot of guys that will do $1 million, make 12, $15,000, and then they don't do a deal for 3 months because they're good on that deal. That's kind of like an issue that we see too. I'm like, bro, that's great. Let's do 2 million next month. Let's get you to 20 million at the end of the year. Don't you want to make $400,000? $400,000. I go, that's very doable based on what you're doing. It's just building your brand, getting it out there, letting you help you do it. And I think, being with Loan Depot, we have a big brand now behind us from where I came from the past. So we're excited.
What is it? And I know in the commercial world, when I bring in new commercial agents, I tell them for 6 months you're going to make absolutely nothing because you're going to prospect, right? And then you basically have a 2 year window before you start making decent money, probably unpredictable, but decent money. And then when you make it to 5 years, that's kind of that magical time for commercial that you start seeing repeat clients. You've built your business large enough. You start seeing that. What does that ramp up look like in the lending side? Is it, within the first handful of months like it is in residential real estate where kind of 90 days you can have a decent little book of business going, or are you guys kind of months out or even years out like in the commercial side?
Yeah, I would definitely say, within the first 3 months, you should have a deal. With the first 3 months, you should be networking, you should be building real estate agent relationships. You should be going to your old units. You should be on Facebook. You should be on Instagram. You should be using all those resources that are at a keyboard. 20 years ago, we couldn't hit millions of people in 2 minutes. Now you can. Now you have podcasts like yourself, right, that reach people. There's a lot of different things that you can do instantly to get your name out there and go back to your old, like I go back to the old 101st MP Facebook page. And I'm like, hey, and everybody knows me. And I'm like, hey, that's Mac, that's the mortgage guy or whatever. Like, I get calls. Hey, I want to refinance. I need to do an Earl. I'm selling my house. Can you help me? Do you have a real estate agent in this area? All that stuff. So get back to your question. First 90 to 120 days, you should have a deal. You should have at least one or two, right? Reasonable. The average is about 350, $400,000, $6,000 you would have made, right? We do have leads that come in. Once I feel comfortable with you on the phone and I know you can handle the loan and I know you have the customer service, then as a loan officer, your phone will ring, you'll get the leads. You don't make as much, but you can do more volume, obviously. But then you're building those relationships because you get the lead of a client who doesn't have a real estate agent. Then you call the real estate agent and say, I have a pre-qualified buyer. Do you have anything do you need help with right now? Especially if you don't know the real estate agent. Well, not really. Okay, I'll give you a call back. Find somebody that has a buyer now and be like, I'll give you this buyer for that buyer. Right? Start working deals. Just don't give them up if you don't know the person. Or go back to your old person that you gave them a deal. Say, hey, I'm giving you another deal. I really need your help for the next one. Yes, 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 sure, no problem. Right? So there is good money that could be made. First year, you should make around $100,000. Given your first 3 or 4 months is kind of be slow. But if you get into those real estate companies, if you get into those real estate agents, we can provide them a VA class on the VA home loan, right? Not just about the rules about the VA loan, but teach them about the history of the soldier. What do ranks mean? What does PCS stand for? What is the spouse going through? How do they move their products? How do their cars? Teach them everything they need to know from start to finish of what that soldier's going through. Not just, yeah, no money down, no mortgage insurance, you need good credit, right? And there's closing costs. That's everybody knows that. But if you teach them the game, like, hey, this kid's an E3, this kid's an E4. This is how you read his pay chart. This is how you read how much money he's going to be getting in BAH because he's married with 3 dependents. All right, when the moving company comes, they're going to pack everything up. They're going to take this, they're going to ship them out, right? A lot of real estate agents don't know what this person is going through, what their client's going through. But they support the veteran, right? They're veteran loan specialists, but to what degree, right? So we try to educate agents. We've tried the VA home loan class. It works good. Everybody comes on because they just want your leads, but it never reciprocates, obviously. Um, So for me, I tell our guys, just be genuine, be true to yourself, take care of your clients, and make sure your real estate agent's taking care of their clients, and they'll always come back to you. And now rates are a little bit higher. I mean, they're getting better, obviously, in the last year, but they are still a little bit higher. You're going to do an IRL on this client after 210 days from their first payment. You're going to do the VA interest rate reduction refinance loan, save them 2 months of mortgage payments, and have a lower payment after that. And you're going to tell them that your rate's going to be a little bit higher. Your payment might be a little bit higher than you want to be. Suck it up for 7 months. And guess what? We're going to be lower. And I'm going to save you, if you're, $6,000 in 2 mortgage payments. You're going to save right off the bat, and you're going to have a lower payment when you come out of it. Just don't jack up your credit and make sure you're paying your mortgage on top. That's all I said. And I'm like, okay. They call me in month 5. Hey, are we there yet? I'm like, when was your first payment? It was probably 6 weeks after you closed. No, it's after 210 days after your, oh man, okay. You know? So that's the stuff we do. We always educate, we always teach, we always make sure our clients know what to expect. There's no bait and switch here. There's no, like some companies, you want to play a game. I do it all the time. I call Navy Fed and I call Veterans United as a buyer. Oh yeah, we can give you a 599. I'm like, par is like 6 months ago, 7.2. You're gonna give me a 599 right off the bat with no closing costs? Oh really? How do you do that? Well, it's easy. We just, because you're a veteran, we give you these programs, we give these rates. Okay. What's your, and then they're offering you something without even looking into your history if you can even afford it. They're not looking at your credit. They're not looking at your 2 years of history. They're not looking at how much money do you have in savings, right? The 3 pillars of the mortgage: the credit, the jobs, and what do you have saved up? Do you have anything, God forbid, if you can't afford your payment for at least 3 months of savings? They don't do that. And at the end of the day, I always say Veterans United is my biggest client, because people call me and they say, hey, listen, I'm supposed to be closing in 6 weeks. Now, guess what? I got to come out of pocket an extra $4,000 I don't have. And my rate's not the same because they said my credit wasn't excellent. And they quoted me on the excellent. And then you look at the fee sheet and you see them getting charged to pull your certificate of eligibility, which literally costs 5 seconds to do. And it's free service from the VA. You just got to log in and pull it. I've seen up to $500 at one time. So they charge to pull a veteran a COE, right? And then they try to get, well, if you use our insurance company, if you use this and if you use that, we'll give you a bigger discount. What are you doing? They're giving you a bigger discount, and the more charges they're charging you, they're just bringing it down to normal. So my goal as being in this space as a branch, a branch owner manager, is to educate our service members. My biggest thing on social media is get a second opinion. 20 years ago, we used to use a 4-letter company for car insurance, and they were the cheapest in town, and nobody could touch them, and everybody would tell you that. Now they're the most expensive. Now nobody even has them whatsoever. Just because you're calling those companies that have the word veteran in it, that, market all around base and come in for family fun day and do all this crazy, give you sandwiches and stuff and support family fun days on bases, doesn't mean they have your best interest. Always get a second opinion. Always find out what you're doing, and get it broken down for you. That's all I can do and educate soldiers. And I get guys that, oh, I'm going with them. And they call me back 2 months later or a month later. Hey, man, with their head between their tail. Yeah, can we talk? I think you're right. Yeah, of course I was right.
So, and obviously, a ton of your business is veterans. One of the questions I know we get a lot of times from viewers is if they should totally lean into the fact they're a veteran, that they're military, that they're affiliated with all that. And we hear kind of both sides of the answer. And given so much of your business is there, do you lean into, hey, I'm the veteran mortgage pro, or there's a picture of you in uniform, on your business card, or all those things? Do you lean in kind of that far, or is it just kind of something that casually comes up in conversation?
Because we're an all military veteran team, I try to expose that a lot. Do I talk about, my fast track history in the military, my 2 tours of Iraq, all of the awards I got, right? No, I don't. It just sounds like I brag about it, but no, I don't brag about that, or I don't use that, right? But I do want veterans to know, like whenever I look for a business at home, like a pressure cleaner or an electrician, I always type in veteran owned electrician. I always want to deal with a veteran first. And I feel like making the biggest purchase of your life, veteran to veteran connect. We've never met a day in our lives, but we connect because we're veterans, right? There is a trust there to some level. There is a, all right, cool, what's up, brother? Like when you talk to a veteran, it's not about what are you looking to do. It's when did you serve, where did you serve, and what did you do? Oh yeah, I was in Fallujah. Oh yeah, I was here doing that. And then you get the guys where you were in the same places at the same times. Then it's like boom, done, right? You're really helping them. You know, I did a guy, Corey, he bought a house, just got out of the military, bought a house in Virginia, has a job by the Pentagon, $800,000 house. Guy was squared away, 750 credit, $80,000. It was a picture perfect, very easy loan because this guy was squared away and he was set up for this, right? And then once we talked, we ended up being in Baghdad at the same exact time in 0506 at Camp Loyalty. We were in the same place at the same time, just under different units, eating at the same chow hall 20 years ago. You're like, holy shit, that's the best, right? That's why I promote it because I love talking to
Yeah.
veterans every day. And there's very, you get some veterans that try to use the word veteran to scam you or try to get stuff for free. You know, there's always bad ones, but there's more good ones. And if a veteran calls us, they're going to feel that sense of, all right, they got me, right? Not like Veterans Unite. You call Veterans Unite, you're not talking to a veteran. You're talking to some guy answering a phone in a call center, pitching you whatever the rate is on the board that day. You know, so I want to have that customer service, that whole, we got you, and the biggest compliment is a referral. That's what I say. You love what I did for you, please spread the word, especially going back to your units or going back to your new jobs that are all veterans.
Yeah. No, I think that makes perfect sense, and I can see what you're saying with some of the other loan companies out there. That I remember giving the counseling as a young NCO to the new agents, wow, so the new soldiers that were coming in was that, hey, basically the discussion was if the car lot has more than 15 flags, you want to stay away from it, right? The more patriotic it was, the more likely they're trying to come after you and probably give you that great of a deal. And I think you can kind of see the same thing, in general. And it's always something I caution, new professionals coming into the industry is be careful. Your service is important. You're absolutely right that, very quickly you can kind of gauge somebody. You have conversations. I've had the same stories with a fraternity brother. When I went back to college, we served at the same base and actually lived pods apart from each other. And when my shower trailer was down, his was up, so we could have literally been sitting in the stalls next to each other. Like you could be that close to each other, right? And it's absolutely that rapport that gets built so quickly. But you got to be careful, I think, sometimes with going over the top with it as well, because we've all been taught or trained if it's too patriotic, it's probably out to get you. Have
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, and I also think if it's always thrown up in your face or always in front of you, then be careful, right? Like as a small business owner, I can't go onto a military installation and promote what I'm doing because USA has a stronghold on that. All these big companies have a stronghold for genuine people to try to market on base, right? The credit unions, Omni, USA, Navy Fed, all that. I got it. But so our marketing is outside, right? Social media, getting online. I sponsored a military police regiment. I was an MP. My gunner got shot in the head when we were in Baghdad, died instantly. They have a Gold Star program that they take care of his family for the rest of their life. It means something to me, so I give back to them. I have access to MPs obviously throughout the whole United States Army because of how we support them, how we can educate them, financial literacy, and all that. Um, those are the ways I have to work into the military to really expose it. I can't be a tax presenter. I can't be all these programs they have now when you get out. It's all infiltrated. I can't, I've tried to get my hat in there. I try to do it. No, sorry, Mr. Verdi. Just, it's not, no. You're not part of this group. You're not part of that foundation. So to me, that's the biggest frustration because I would offer that for free. I would get in front of these guys. I would have my loan officer get in front of these guys. I would host lunches. I would just teach them, hey, when you're about to get out, get a house, get a property, don't rent. Given your situation, sometimes renting is fine, if it's temporary. But educate them on what they can do. Educate them 6 months before they get out. Don't have any late payments within a year. Clean up your credit. This is what you're allowed to do, right? Use your money to get into a home. Use your VA loan. And now that you're getting out, you'll have your service connected disability rating. So now there's no funding fee that you're paying, you know? Or if you're getting a disability rating within X amount of time, you'll get that money back. But active duty guys, as you know, they have to pay that funding fee unless you have a Purple Heart. You don't see that many Purple Hearts anymore because last time we were in combat was when we were there 20 years ago. So, that's what we do. My biggest mission is to help service members and veterans the biggest purchase of their life, do it ethically, do it honestly, save them money, be 100% transparent, and let them be part of our family and our team, right? Let them know, hey, when you get to a unit, bro, use Mac. You save me money, he did good. I'll compete with Navy Fed's pricing. I do it all the time. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. I don't need to make a fortune. We don't make a fortune because we're very competitive on our rates. And I try to give them the best thing we can give that makes sense for everybody. Um, and that's it. And then working with realtors, right? Working with our realtors, taking care of our realtor partners, making sure all that stuff is in line and we have the same mission. If I give you, Will, a client, I expect you to give my client, that veteran, the best possible customer service they deserve. And if they called me and said, you're showing me houses I didn't like, too far away, houses closer to where he lived, not where we want to go to, you know, okay, cool. I'll never use you again. But 9 out of 10 times, like, oh, he's awesome. And if that real estate agent is a listing agent, it's very important they understand the benefit of the VA home loan for the service member. Multiple times, more than usual, do offers get denied because that listing agent doesn't want their seller to take the VA home loan because they think, oh, you're not going to get paid the same amount of money. Oh, the appraisal is that more stringent. Blah blah blah. Yes, the appraisal is harder, but it's not that much harder. If your septic's right, if there's no rayon, if your plumbing's right, if there's no wood biting insects or wood damaging insects, then you're good to go. If there is, you have a lemon. That veteran shouldn't be buying a house. Nobody should be buying a house until you fix it. The VA appraisal, just make sure that veteran is getting taken care of and they're buying a good property. That's all it is. But if a listing agent saying you don't want to deal with the VA loan, that's not a good listing agent at all. You know, I had an offer that got submitted last week, and I was telling you about how to get a pre-approval letter for the address on there. They put in $15,000 or $20,000 over asking. They still didn't get it. And I'm like, how did you not get it? And they're like, I think it's because it's a VA loan. And I was like, that's absolutely ridiculous. This guy, it's a soldier member moving to Tennessee, 4 acres, $520,000, checks all his blocks. He was away on vacation when his realtor showed him the listing and he put an offer in without even actually seeing it. That's how beautiful this was. And he didn't get it. And I was like, that's a shame, but that's what we deal with in the VA world too. A lot of these agents don't think it's a different color of money. It's this or it's that. Or the veteran doesn't have money because they don't put money down. Who cares? You're getting paid. You're selling your house. You're walking away with the same exact thing you would with anybody else. You're helping a service member or a veteran buy a home. That's the frustrating part all the time that we deal with. And as much as we can educate realtors on that, especially if they're in a like where I live down here in South Florida, there's no military bases. This isn't a veteran world down here. So when you're in areas like this, they go, oh, VA loan, you don't want to deal with that. You got 3 offers, take that conventional, take that HA loan. So that's the frustration with me dealing with a lot of realtors.
I get it, and I totally get the frustration. Even not being on the residential side, I hear the same things, and we hear the same discussions, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully, with your mission, getting out there and teaching and training, that helps curve that. As we're kind of coming into wrapping up, if you were to sit down and look at the Mac that was just getting out of the Army, knowing what you know, is there any advice you would give to yourself or anything that you would likely tell yourself do maybe a little bit differently or learn that lesson, but maybe not as hard as you learned that lesson to kind of get where you are today?
I think I've always had the same mindset when I was in the military, when I got out of the military. Like the day I made sergeant at like 3 years, I literally went to my platoon sergeant and said, "How do I make staff sergeant? I need a checklist today." Right? So I can mentally start preparing how to be successful and make that next rank. Coming out of, a couple of combat tours with PTSD and all that stuff going on in your head, I think being an entrepreneur and always having, not that automatic money being paid every month, not being on salaries, always working for myself, that helped me with my PTSD because I had to worry about how am I keeping electric on? How am I keeping my kids in school? How am I making car payments? Instead of worrying about shit that happened to me in combat. Like this is my new combat, right? How do I combat life? So that mindset, I've always had a drive, I've always had a motivation to be successful. I have been successful doing products and getting them into the military. And now switching to this, it's been even more of a blessing because I have a bigger mission, I have a bigger focus, and I have a direction and a purpose, and I have a team that I'm leading again into working with veterans and service members. So my mindset, I think, has always been the same. Always been, I don't say a hustler, but always driven. Always wanting to do the best. Never really cut corners. And I think that's what brought me into the success I'm having out of the military. And I really try to find guys that have that mindset but don't have all the tools or haven't had the bumps in the roads like I've had or haven't made the bad calls on what I should do, what shouldn't I do. When I got in the military, an opportunity to work for a very, very big life insurance company, massive. One of my mom's friends was at the top. He's like, "You're gonna make 150 your first year." I'm like, 150,000, 6 figures. That's awesome. And I didn't take that job right away. I didn't take that job. I actually turned it down and I went a different route. But I always think, imagine if I would have took that job with that hustle I had, being 27, 28 years old, coming out of the military, I probably would have been running that company. But would I have had the freedom, the flexibility, would I have had everything I needed to do to have a good life, to enjoy my kids, going through high school and now going to college next year. Um, would I have had that time? Who knows, right? Well, God puts us on a really intricate journey. Um, but I don't think I would have changed anything with my mindset. I'm glad, my mind has always been good, has always been alert, has always given me that drive and hustle to really just provide for my family. We do everything for our family. I do everything. I'm a girl dad. I have 3 girls. I have a wife of 23 years. Like I do everything for them, and that's my drive. That's my hustle. If I was at Walmart, I'd probably be managing a Walmart or regional Walmart manager by now. That's just been always my drive track, right? So I don't think anything would change. I think no matter what I did, I would have been okay. But it's just finding what I love to do. And my passion in the last 3 years has really been real estate, has really been, mortgages and loan officers and training guys to be successful. Because this is an opportunity where you can come out of the military, make great money, still be in your communities with the camaraderie of your old units, and still being tough. I got a lot of special forces guys that are still in that community that want to become loan officers because all their guys are now real estate agents and they want to become loan officers. So that's if I came out, I probably wouldn't have changed anything. I probably would have maybe chose this industry a lot sooner than getting to where I got to. But I know, like I said, I probably would have been good no matter what.
Well, Mac, that's great. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being willing to share. And we do get questions from time to time as well. So I hope you're more than willing to jump in and contribute to any questions we do get from some of the social media posts and all that. But again, thank you for your service and thank you for your time and what you're doing for the veteran community as well.
Yeah, I appreciate your time as well. I appreciate, exposing who we are, what we do, and why we do it. That's huge. Any opportunity to do that, we'll take.